morning. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Words with Friends. Tonight we are talking about love. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the word love?
Billy Ocean songs.
Okay.
An emotion.
An emotion. Okay.
Yeah.
When we think about love, it's hard to think about love without thinking about relationships, whether that's romantic relationships, friendships, coworker relationships. When we think about love, we think about how it relates to other people. And so tonight, we're going to test the relationship between Jeff and Luke by having them play a version of the Newlywed Game. So this is a coworkers edition of the Newlywed Game. They have been asked the same questions and have given their answers for themselves and for the other person. So we'll see how well they know each other. So we'll start with you, Luke, because Jeff is going to make up his answers for you on the cuff.
I am.
So, Luke, I'm going to ask the question about you to Jeff, and then we'll reveal your answer. Great. So, Jeff, what do you think Luke's favorite go-to downtime activity in the office is?
For him?
For him.
For him, it's definitely watching gaming videos. He's always watching. He loves the gaming videos.
They were in order.
It's the gaming videos. That's what it's going to be.
I promise you they were in order.
They were in the other order.
All right, here we go.
So that you could
Show that.
All right, show your answer. Your answer was?
YouTube.
Yeah.
So similar.
Similar.
That's a winner.
Yes. Okay. Jeff, what is Luke's favorite snack to eat in the office? He gave a very generic answer.
I would just say fast food.
And?
Ding, 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 ding. Soulmates.
Nailed it.
Okay. What are you likely to hear as you pass Luke's office? I know.
YouTube videos.
YouTube.
Yeah!
And not always
They're going to think we made this up. This is completely unmade up.
Okay. What is the first thing Luke does as he enters the office?
I'm going to say he gets on his phone. That's my answer.
No.
It's probably true, but he said go to his desk, and then the next thing is probably get on his phone.
Okay. Go to the desk.
Okay, the final question.
Yeah.
What brings Luke joy in the office? He's going to give a snarky answer right now.
YouTube videos. That's all I got.
He actually gave a very sweet answer.
I said Evelyn.
Oh, that's sweet.
But probably a close second is
probably,
YouTube videos.
YouTube videos.
Okay, wait, go back up.
She does bring a lot of joy to the office.
She also brings a lot of noise to the
Yes,
office.
that's true. That's true.
Okay.
So what, I hold these up?
So, yes, but first we're going to...
Okay. Oh, that's number 5.
So I'm going to ask Luke questions about you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Luke, what is Jeff's favorite go-to downtime activity in the office?
When I have time.
When you have downtime.
When he has that
Yes.
What do I do?
downtime.
What do you do?
This is number 1?
Yes.
Coronavirus research.
Well, that's actually a better answer.
I know, and
That's
you
actually a better... I said making snarky comments on Facebook. But I'm going to... It really is.
Okay, number 2. What is Jeff's favorite snack to eat in the office?
I don't know. I said chips.
Chips?
I don't know.
You know, to
Popcorn,
be fair,
fool.
we used to have a lot of microwavable popcorn in the office.
It used to waft through the office.
Often, and we don't have that very often now.
More.
Okay, what are you likely to hear as you pass Jeff's office?
Barbershop music.
And your answer was acapella or specifically barbershop music.
That's amazing.
You can hear it through the walls.
You can.
It's the truth.
And in your dreams.
What is the first thing Jeff does when he enters the office?
I said, gets a cup of something.
And he said, gets coffee.
There's just cups everywhere.
There are cups.
There's like 3
in
within
room
sight
alone.
right now. I'm impressed.
I know.
Yeah.
And finally, what brings Jeff joy
you better
in
get
the
this
office?
right.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Organizing or
Throwing stuff away.
But his answer was pretty funny.
I thought it was close.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I think this is a pretty good representation.
I think you got a lot more. I think with YouTube being a generic answer.
Okay.
I think you both proved that you know each other pretty well.
That's some pretty.
You earned some high marks for both of you. We hope you enjoyed that. Now, like I said before, when you think of love, you think about your relationship with other people, but we also need to think about our relationship to God. It's all cyclical, and that's what this video is about to show. So enjoy this video, and then we'll come back with some discussion.
So if you've heard of Jesus, you probably know about one of his famous teachings called the Golden Rule. Do to others what you would want them to do to you. And this, actually, is a restatement of something else that Jesus said, that the meaning of life is to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, that's really beautiful, but what does he mean exactly by the word love? It's an unclear word in English, because you can love your mom and you can love pizza. And if the word love means the same thing in both of those cases, your mom's gonna feel real bad. So what did Jesus mean in his language? Well, first of all, this love your neighbor phrase is a quotation from the Hebrew scriptures, where the word for love is ahava. However, the language Jesus spoke and taught in from day to day, it was a cousin language of Hebrew, that is Aramaic, in which the word for love is rachma. But then, as Jesus' followers spread his teachings around the world, they translated them into Greek, using the word agape. But here's what's fascinating. The earliest followers of Jesus, who wrote the books of the New Testament in Greek, they didn't learn the meaning of agape by looking it up in ancient dictionaries. Rather, they looked to the teachings of Jesus and the story of his life to redefine their very concept of love. So one time, Jesus was asked about the most important command in the Jewish scriptures. And he first quoted from the ancient prayer in the Torah called the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart. So love for God is the most important thing. But then Jesus quickly followed up by saying another command from the Torah was also the most important, to love your neighbor as yourself. So which is the most important, loving God or loving your neighbor? Jesus' answer is yes. To ask the question means you don't get his point. For Jesus, they are two sides of the same coin. Your love for God will be expressed by your love for people, and vice versa, they're inseparable. And so this makes it clear that for Jesus, agape love is not primarily a feeling for someone else that happens to you, like our phrase, I fell in love. For Jesus, love is action. It's a choice that you make to seek the well-being of people other than yourself. Jesus also went on to teach that genuine love for God and others means seeking people's well-being without expecting anything in return, especially from people who are in difficult situations, who can't repay you even if they wanted to. According to Jesus, this kind of generous love reflects the very heartbeat of God. And he took this even further. Jesus said that the ultimate standard of authentic love is how well you treat the person that you can't stand. Or in his words, you shall love your enemy and do good to them, expecting nothing in return. For Jesus, this kind of enemy-embracing love imitates the very character of God himself. Now, we wouldn't be talking about Jesus still today if he had only said things like love your enemy. This is how he actually lived. Jesus was constantly helping and serving the people around him in very practical and tangible ways. And he consistently moved towards poor and hurting people who couldn't benefit him in return. He showed love for the forgotten ones, the people who usually fall through the cracks. And when Jesus eventually marched into Jerusalem, he made himself an enemy of the leaders of his people by accusing them of hypocrisy and corruption. But then instead of attacking his enemies to overthrow them, he allowed them to kill him. Jesus died for the selfishness and corruption of his enemies because he loved them. After Easter morning, Jesus and then his followers claimed that it was the power of God's love for the world that was revealed in Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. As the Apostle Paul put it, God demonstrated his own agape for us in this: while we were still sinners, the Messiah died for us. Or in the words of the Apostle John, God's own agape was revealed when he sent his one and only Son into the world so that through him we could have life. And for John, then, this leads naturally to the conclusion, beloved ones, if that's how God has loved us, then we ought to show love for one another. So Christian faith involves trusting that at the center of the universe is a being overflowing with love for his world, which means that the purpose of human existence is to receive this love that has come to us in Jesus and then to give it back out to others, creating an ecosystem of others-focused, self-giving love. And that's the New Testament meaning of agape love.
We hope you enjoyed that video. Like the video said, I really like that it started with the golden rule, because I think very often, especially as parents or as teachers, we teach that, but it can be difficult to put it into practice in our own lives. So do you guys think that we practice the golden rule in our everyday life, and how?
I practice it when I think about it. But if I'm running on autopilot, I'm thinking about me and mine.
Right.
I'm thinking about what do I have to do for my kids, what do I have to do, for my family. I'm not thinking about others until I kind of have to hit the brakes and stop and go, oh, let me get outside of
It's a
myself.
conscious decision.
Yeah. It's not, if I'm running on autopilot, then no.
Yeah, I think what I often do is say this is the golden rule that everybody else should live by.
Right.
And I should be treated kindly, and I should be loved, and I should be respected. And so when it's the opposite against me, I'm like, whoa, bro, the golden rule. Like, where are you coming at?
Right.
But, I don't expect it much of myself, I guess.
I've thought a lot about this, especially, and we're recording this on Election Day, so hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow there's
You're an optimist.
I don't know. Maybe we are out of the chaos a little bit, but I thought about this a lot the past few weeks because we don't necessarily think about the golden rule when we disagree with people.
Sure.
We don't know that we want them to be treated as we would like to be treated because we disagree with them on a fundamental level, and that's not how love works. That's not how agape love is supposed to work.
Well, in order to do that, I often call it we change the tags, we change the name tags on people, and so instead of referring to them as God's beloved, as our brother and sister in Christ, as image bearer of Jesus, we just use a different word, and sometimes they're pretty foul words.
Terrible words.
Sometimes I saw it was challenging to me. I saw somebody post this the other day. It said Kamala is beloved, Donald is God's creation. They had taken scripture talking about different candidates and remembering that these are all people created in the image of God. And so we should not talk about them.
No.
We can disagree with them.
Yes.
We can make very pointed arguments about why we don't like their policies.
Yes.
But I think the way that we get around that is to say, well, that person is a jerk. Or that person, well, they're just an idiot.
Yeah.
And those are the words that we were more comfortable with. Because think about if you had to say, well, I just hate you because you're a child of God.
Right.
I hate you, child of God.
Yeah.
Changes it.
It would certainly make you look like a terrible person.
Yeah, then I'm the idiot.
The video stated that Jesus says that loving God and loving your neighbor are both the same and the most important. So they are one and the same. Which part of this command is easier to follow in your life? Loving God or loving your neighbor?
Yeah, I think it would be loving God. I think it's easier to say that I love God, whereas it's much harder for me, for somebody I disagree with, to be like, I love you. Somebody that I am maybe I disagree with or don't look fondly upon, or maybe they've wronged me in the past, or maybe all this other things that can kind of get in the way, where I feel like God has never explicitly came at me and like wronged me specifically. So then I just have this animosity built up towards God.
I prefer my people with skin on, and so my entities with skin and bones, and so it's easier for me to love people that I can see their need, that I can entertain, that I can love on, than this kind of amorphous, like what did I do today to love God?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I can tell you what I did today to love my neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about that is, of course, I hope I'm not jumping the shark here, is that Matthew 25 tells us that when you're loving your neighbor, you're loving God.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know that I ever wake up in the morning and go, hey, I wonder how I could love God today. And mostly that does come out in loving other people.
Yes.
So
My answer for this was sort of the same as Luke's, because I think you can...
you're both wrong.
Well, that's fine. I think you can use it as an excuse.
Oh,
Say,
yeah.
I still love God.
Right.
I'm daily living my life for God. So that must mean that I'm living my life for other people, when a concrete example is what you said. It's every day I'm living my life loving other people in a more concrete way, as opposed to this abstract idea of I love God.
Well, we all make the same misconception, which is that God hates the same people that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an assumption that if you just follow that logic, if you just say, go look at the people that you're allied against, often what you're saying is God is on our side, righteousness is on our side, right, or however the moral good is on my side.
Right.
And so I can demonize these people because they're full of demons.
Right, obviously.
Yeah.
I think this particular subject of love, and especially agape love, fits very well with what we've been talking about the past few weeks, because we talked about empathy and vulnerability, and all of those things don't happen without action. And love is the same way. If we are not every day finding ways to show love, to act love with people and with God, all in one big circle, then it's not real. It's a concept. It's not something that we can see and feel and touch. And that is what God calls us to do.
Yeah, I love, John says, you can't love God who you haven't seen if you don't love your brother who you have seen. That's a great test, a great way of saying, we want to claim certain things, but then Scripture so often goes, well, where's the proof of that? Like, all over Scripture, it's like, okay, well, then how are you doing with treating this person?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about your enemies? Like Jesus even says, are you praying for your enemies? Are you going a little bit further than those Roman soldiers are making you go?
Yeah.
Then you don't really understand what love is. Love is really hard.
Yes.
Love. Anybody who's spent time in any kind of a long-term relationship, it's difficult. Even work relationships, or I have friendship relationships, that they're not really good until they've been tested, until you've had the knockdown drag out, until okay, so here's a story. We're gonna go back to Jeff's college days.
Oh, good.
And I got into it with one of my roommates, but I am a great passive aggressive. I won't tell you that I'm mad at you, I just detach. And so I would literally drive like around the block if I saw my roommate's car was in our driveway, and I would just go do something else. Now the problem with this is that my roommates and some other guys, we met every Thursday night for prayer group. And at prayer group, you had to talk about what was going on. And so they were like, Jeff, what's going on with you? I was like, well, I'm just tired of driving around the house anytime I see so-and-so's car in the driveway. And it was like that response, like, what? Huh? What? And now, 25 years later, every now and then someone will go, so have you been driving around the house waiting to see if so-and-so's car was in the driveway? That's a true story. But those are dear friends. Those are brothers that I would lay down in traffic for. But at the same time, I didn't want to occupy the same spaces, all of them at one point. So.
I think one piece of Scripture, and it was mentioned in the video, but we read this a lot at weddings, but we only pick out the portions that make love sound pretty. So Jeff, I would really like you to read all of 1 Corinthians 13, because it isn't just flowery language. The beginning really talks about what this kind of agape love means.
Yeah, somebody was telling me the other day that you really need to read this passage in light of gifts.
Yes.
And like, if you're using the things that you're using, if they're not motivated in love, if they're not grounded in love, then it all derails.
Yes.
It's not just useless, it's actually harmful to practice some of these things without love. So think about that. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
I always feel sort of, I don't know if it's ashamed or just like vilified by that passage because I know I should be those things.
Well, yeah.
But it's many days.
You can
of
hear
my
the
life.
bell sound when you get to one. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
keeps
yeah.
no record of runs. Ding!
Yeah.
Like, oh,
The
right here.
scorecard is.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
tough.
Yeah. As I said before, we are recording this on Election Day. So we don't know if we'll have a real outcome or if the outcome will be, positive, negative for you specifically. But I wanted to ask this question. How do we, after this whole mess of a process is over, treat each other with agape love, especially knowing the people that we disagree with on a fundamental level politically?
Mm-hmm.
How do we treat our brothers and sisters within the same faith that we know voted for the opposite side and are on opposite sides of this conflict? How do we treat them with agape love, and how can we make a conscious decision to do that?
Yeah, I think it's going back, we talked about this in other ones, but just knowing that everybody has a different story, right? Everybody is different and has had different experiences, which has led them to their side of the vote, right? And so you don't have those same experiences, so all you can do is, one, show that empathy that we've talked about, right? Hey, I don't completely understand your side of the spectrum, but I can have empathy for it. I can understand why you would want something like this. I can feel that hurt if this is where that pain is so much. I know going back to 2016, I had a lot of friends that were totally afraid of the deportation that was going to happen in America. And even though I was like, well, I know none of my family is in serious, of being deported, I knew that it could be very well that some of their family could. So that I can understand being afraid, being scared, and knowing that in my head that this is a person, this is another, like we just said, this is another child of God, right, who has that freedom of choice. And I guess just being more and more empathetic with people and trying to understand the other side a lot better.
I've tried to actively seek dialogue with people. I have some friends that will do this on Facebook, and they have a way of talking, of asking questions. Well, tell me more about that. I think I understand that, but what do you mean when you say such and such? And really listening to understand, not listening to interrupt or to make my point or to go, aha!
Yeah.
I had a great conversation with a guy, not somebody that I knew. It was on a friend's page, or a friend of mine had commented about something that I said about COVID. And this guy disagreed with me, and I said, okay, well, tell me more about that. And we went back and forth for a while. We'd never met. Our only relationship was through another guy. And at the end, he was like, well, thanks for engaging on that. And I said, yeah, I would, this would be a great conversation over a cup of coffee. Those things start to shine. Those people that can disagree without being disagreeable.
Yes.
Peter would say that we really live into this idea of radical love so that even our enemies have nothing against us. So even our enemies that would say, well, I don't believe in Jesus and the church, but I know this guy practices love. I know I cannot say anything about it. I often think about that when we talk about the pro-life, pro-choice. One of the things that pro-choice people like to say is, well, Christians are only interested in babies while they're in the womb. And I want to say, we should be able to point to our adoption agencies and our feeding programs and we should be able to say, no. We are about the whole life, even to the end of life, and our hospice care. Like, we care so much about life that we like it at every stage. And we should be able to point to houses that are filled with kids that we've adopted, or orphanages and children's homes that we support so radically that they go, yeah, you got me there, And when disaster strikes, we should be the first ones that show up, so that they go, well, you know what, that church isn't just about meeting together and agreeing with each other. But I think if we practice really radical love is the way to do that.
I agree. I think you, as a child of God, and recognizing that the person on the opposite side is also a child of God, you have to keep that mindset and keep the humanity first. And be willing to listen and not necessarily be willing to let yourself be wrong, but just be willing to disagree without losing affection for one another.
Two of our great examples of that, American examples of that, are Justice Scalia and Justice Ginsburg.
Yes.
Just famously great friends, traveled together, vacation together, argued together. And what was interesting about them is they both had a really high value of the law.
Yes.
And so the law was always kind of out here. It was never in between them. And what they believed, even how they read it and how they would apply it and how we would even say interpret it, was never here, was never in between the two. It was always kept out there. And I think that's a great example, even within Christendom, even within, because what are we known for? We're known for how much we disagree with,
Right.
say, denominations or whoever, but it never comes between us that what we disagree about is always kept.
At arm's length.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one more passage I'd like to read, and it was one that was, again, highlighted in the video. So, Luke, would you mind reading Matthew 22, 34 through 39?
Yep. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest command, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Thank you. I think that's going to bring us to our close tonight. I really want to ingrain that image of loving your God is going to show in loving your neighbor, and loving your neighbor is going to show your love for God. It is all an ecosystem. It is all a circle. So we have to not just be focused on how we show our love for God, but how we show our love here within each other, with every person that we meet. And so that's what I want to challenge you with, is to find ways to show people your love without, and this is the important part, without expecting anything in return. This is not a give and take. It's give and continue to give. It's not expecting any reward, any gold star, nothing in return.
You got to do a ring and run on some people. That's what my boys love to do when we deliver something. They want to drop it off and not even let people know who it is, which isn't really good if you're delivering food, or you want to make sure that they're there and they know who it came from. But that whole idea of it's almost like a trick that you're playing on somebody. I'm gonna love you and you're never gonna know who it is. Okay, we can edit this out, but I think that Luke and I need to break the tie by answering our questions about Leah.
Sure,
and
I
so
like
what
this.
is her favorite go-to downtime activity in the office? You answer first. I'll answer first the next time.
Downtime activity would be watching a show on Netflix. Or
Okay,
Disney
I'm
Plus.
going to go the next one, watching Veronica Mars.
Oh,
See, I'm gonna be
wow.
very specific.
Very specific.
So what is it?
Well, you are both correct. It would be, and especially when I'm prepping curriculum, it would be watching something. And I do love
What is her
Veronica Mars.
favorite snack? I know this one, so I'm going to let you answer first.
But you just said that you were going to answer first.
But you're going to say, yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. Well, I would also. Oh man, she loves the chips with that whatever that dip is.
Yeah, it's hummus.
Hummus.
And I win.
Chips and hummus?
Because I said hummus. He didn't know what it was.
No, it's the dip.
It's the
I don't know hummus.
Hummus.
I do
I don't
love
shop
hummus.
at Trader Joe's.
Okay.
I also don't shop at
What are
Trader
you
Joe's.
likely to hear as you pass by their office? You get to answer first.
Well, my office or her office?
Her office.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's her office, so down there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably Evelyn.
Yeah, babbling child is
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
Babbling or screaming child.
Ah!
One of the two.
What's the first thing they do as they enter the office?
I don't know. She
You
gets here
wouldn't
before
know, I
me.
guess, yeah.
Yeah, she gets here before me.
She thanks the Lord
Yeah.
to work with two guys
Right.
right here.
I
two.
mean, I know my answer.
What's your
Makes the
answer?
coffee.
I make the coffee.
She does
That's
make the
it.
coffee.
I said it before she said it, so.
Oh,
I said
okay.
You're
make the
welcome.
coffee. Play it back.
What brings her joy in the office?
I would. Where's my card?
These
I would
guys.
say, where's Luke?
Right here.
I don't know where it went.
Oh, I thought you were going to pull up Evelyn.
No.
Oh,
No, I was gonna say Luke, but yeah, Evelyn probably as well.
you don't want a real answer?
I mean,
Oh yeah, put her on the spot. What's your real joy?
what brings me joy, when my child is happy
Oh,
and
Luke, yeah.
when she's asleep.
Mm.
Those are probably my when I can get
Happy
more
and
work done.
unconscious.
Yes.
All right. Well, we love you, and go love somebody. Bye.
Bye.